It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147 at Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host here on this New Year's edition of RealAg Radio. It's the first show of 2026, if you can believe it. 2026 is here. What a year it's going to be for agriculture, and that's exactly what we are doing today. We're going to break down, do some predictions, some forecasting. We're going to think about and provide some guidance and some insight from our panel today on what are all the things to watch out for in 2026. I know you're well into your 26 planning, operational plan, strategic plan, and we're just trying to complement that here today on the program. If you have any feedback on today's show, because I'm sure you have some thoughts as well on these questions I'm going to ask the panel, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also call or text the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Let's bring in the panel. And it's the man with the biggest headache of them all here on New Year's Day. It is Kelvin Heppner.
How do you know?
Just predicting it.
What are you trying to say?
Happy
New Year, everyone.
A couple of weeks ago, you were talking about you're going to start your own bourbon distillery, and maybe you got started on it.
Not so quick, no.
Not so fast. Not so fast. Also joining us, Managing Director at the Canadian Agri-Food Policy Institute is Tyler McCann. Tyler, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Shaun. I hope 2026 is a great one for you, the RealAg team, and all of the listeners out there.
I agree. Thank you very much. Okay, also joining us is Lyndsey Smith, coming out of Ottawa, Ontario, the home of just another Canadian team not going to make the NHL playoffs, is the Ottawa Senators. Lyndsey, how are you doing?
Oh, well, I was fine until that. How dare you? We're doing just fine. I do want to take this opportunity. My sister is 50 today. And I'm not sure how I have a sister who's 50, as I'm still 34. But there you go. So happy birthday, Jess.
Oh, that's nice of you. Anybody else have any wishes?
We did not come prepared for this one, Shaun.
Well, it's January 1st.
It's Christy's birthday, too.
It is Christy's birthday today. That is right.
Happy birthday, Christy, as well.
Happy birthday to Christy. And now Kelvin's going to lead us in a nice rendition of Happy Birthday.
Hang on, let me get
Auld Lang Syne.
That's for the commercial.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Christy can lead us. She's more than capable.
I've seen her sing. She can sing. She would do better than all of us. Okay. Is our look ahead here to 2026 similar to our year in review? I got a bunch of questions. I've even got more questions. I don't know how we're going to get through all this, but we'll try our best. First question, and I have changed the point system, and I've handicapped all of you based on how good your answers were. So I'm not going to tell you that to the end. We never even decided who won the 25 year in review show.
I think we just figured you were giving it to yourself, Shaun. I don't think that there was actually much competition.
No, because I stole all the points. So
she did.
Clearly I won.
Lyndsey may have won. She may have won.
I think I won. We'll go back and check the transcript.
Okay. Finish this sentence. By the end of 2026, agriculture will be blank than it is today. Try to not use any vulgar language here. But Lyndsey, you're up first.
Taking it in the spirit of like our CFSI and how we sort of phrase things, I think agriculture will be in a better position than it is currently. I think this is my hope, of course, and we're looking forward, so we can hope. Hope is not a plan, but we can still do it. That we'll have some better weather for Ontario. Maybe we've got some better moisture conditions in the West, although they did very well last year. And let's hope that the CUSMA renewal review is at least maybe well in hand. I don't know. I'm hopeful that it's less volatile by this time next year. So I'm going to say in a better position.
Better position. Okay, Tyler, what do you think?
Pains me to say this, Shaun. I think it's going to be the same as it is today.
Boring.
Yeah, it is. Because going back to how we ended the last show last week, man, we don't like to change things. And so I think the world's going to move on past us, and Canadian ag will be stuck in that rut that I think we are increasingly stuck in at a time when we need to be throwing that four-wheel drive on, maybe bringing a bigger tractor out to pull us out of the mud and get us moving. But I worry, based on what we saw in 2025, that 2026 is going to look pretty similar to the end of 2026 is going to look pretty similar to the start of it.
And do you think that's a Canadian thing or just a broader agricultural thing?
I think it's a Canadian thing.
Yep. Okay. I think he froze. Kelvin, what's yours?
Because I think we are partly a victim of all of the changes going on around us, and I'm back.
There we go.
Zoom didn't like your answer. No, Kelvin, go ahead.
I'm going to say by the end of 2026, Canadian agriculture will be more consolidated than it is today.
Oh, at the farm gate level?
Yeah, at the farm gate level, unfortunately, at many different levels, whether we're talking input suppliers, whether we're talking, there's many different aspects throughout the industry. And the flip side of that is also more efficient in some ways as you spread costs out over larger scale. That's what most companies are looking to do. But good or bad, generally, we don't like more consolidation in agriculture as we like more competition, but I think a lot of things are pointing in that direction.
I think we're going to see greater separation between farms in terms of, I think farm management and financial competency is really going to play a part in that. Farms that have been making sure the balance sheet is strong, going to be a lot different than the ones where it's like, what do you mean I'm in this situation? That are maybe surprised after they have the meeting with the account. And so I think we're going to see greater divergence, where not all agriculture financially is moving in the same direction. They have the same concerns. They see some of the same opportunities, but from a financial statement standpoint, I think we're seeing people move in different directions. Okay.
Shaun, can I do you mean like a watershed kind of moment, like where we see a significant divergence of like the haves and the have-nots and the successful and the not?
I think that's happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I think it's happening. I think, one of the things we see in our Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index data, and I know the Ag Economist's monthly monitor sees some of the same things where, what we've seen in Canada is larger farms feel better about their financial condition. Now that's a personal evaluation. So they think they're in a better financial position. That may or may not be the reality, but that's an attitude or how they see themselves. There's also a difference, I think, with some younger farms. We do see a stronger, more positive outlook when it comes to the future of the industry financially for farmers under the age of 35. And so I think there is different things happening depending on some of the demographics. Beef is an example where it's separating itself from the other proteins from a financial standpoint. We'll see what that looks like in 2026. This train of profitability could continue on. I would argue it kind of looks like it's going to fundamentally, because some things haven't changed unless the Trump administration totally pops the balloon on the golden age of beef farming. But that's kind of what my thought would be. Okay. Let's take a break. We've got more of our outlook for 2026 right after this. From everyone at Real Agriculture and RealAg Radio, we want to wish you and your family a happy new year. As we turn the calendar, many of you are already thinking about what the year ahead may bring, from markets and weather to policy, technology, and the decisions that shape your operation. Agriculture never really slows down, and neither do the challenges or the opportunities that come with it. At Real Agriculture, our commitment is to help you cut through the noise, ask better questions, and stay informed on what matters most to farming and ranching across North America. We're grateful for the trust you place in us to be a part of those conversations. Thank you for listening to Rural Radio 147 and for making Real Agriculture and RealAg Radio a part of your day. From all of us at Real Agriculture, we wish you a safe, productive, and successful new year, and we look forward to being with you throughout the year ahead.
This is Christiana from the head office in Lethbridge, Alberta. We're so thankful that you choose to spend time with us. We love what we do, and we couldn't do it without you. And we hope you have a very happy new year, and we're looking forward to seeing you in 2026.
Hi, everyone. It's Lyndsey Smith here with RealAg Radio. Yes, your host of Agronomy Mondays, and of course, part of the Issues Panel on Fridays as well, and your host of The Agronomists. We just wanted to take a moment to, of course, say Happy New Year to all of our listeners. Thank you so much for making 2025 just such a fantastic year for RealAg Radio and for the entire Real Agriculture team. And a Happy New Year to you and yours. Cheers, everybody.
We're back here on RealAg Radio. We got our 2026 Outlook show. Happy New Year to everybody. Kelvin Heppner, Lyndsey Smith, Tyler McCann, myself, Shaun Haney. Okay, Kelvin, this one's for you. What is the single most important variable for farm profitability in 2026?
Can I go with the obvious, easy answer that every farmer gives anytime you have this conversation? It's the weather, obviously the weather, and not just weather on our own farms, but I'd say weather in other parts of the world, key production areas, as we saw huge crops last year in many parts of the world, including Canada. We produced a record crop in Canada in 2025, and overall by volume. And obviously that's one of the main reasons why markets are as depressed as they are and margins are as tight or negative in so many different commodities. So I'll say weather, the easy answer.
That's fair. Lyndsey?
So, piggybacking off of that, the next usually most common one would be either crop prices or input prices. Depends. They're two sides of the same coin. We did actually, though.
Are you hedging your bets here? Is that what you're doing?
No, I want to bring up, we actually asked on our poll, last week, we asked people what was sort of top of mind, their biggest concern for 2026. And, crop prices, was definitely number one with 60% of the votes, and then the Canada's relationship with the U.S. was second. So weather, of course, has the final say. Kelvin's exactly right. That is, we can't control it. We can do some things to try and manage the risk, but realistically, we have no control. But the other top concern, of course, is going to be those crop prices, and therefore, I mean, margins are tight with those low prices. And where do you save money? Where do you invest money? What do you maintain? All those sorts of questions, which are, I mean, they're good questions. And sometimes, no matter how you pencil things out, there isn't a lot of black there to play with.
Yeah, Tyler?
So I think I'm a bit of a variation on a theme from Lyndsey. I had demand, and I think that kind of points to a couple of different spaces. And I will go back and say it, like, I think that one of the things that at a certain point in time, I think we have to wrap our heads around is that weather is, and again, lots of people will probably shout at me for this, I think less of a big deal, right? Like, I think we can handle more of a variability in weather than we used to be able to. We talked about this on a show a couple of weeks ago. I think that we need to understand that there's a lot more other things going on that a lot of people have to worry about than just weather.
Well, ask Western Canadian farmers about 2021. I think weather did play a bit of a factor in profitability.
Right, but if you look at kind of the years, right, we've had a lot of years where a lot of people, I think, thought it was going to be closer to a 2021, and it wasn't. And even in 2021, I think a lot of people had a lot better year that year than they thought that they were going to have.
What's more likely to happen in 26 then, Tyler? Significant increased demand to deal with the supply, with the voluminous crop that we have, or South America having some sort of a failure, which would be super nice, and they are not on the trajectory to do so.
No, I'm worried about demand from a downside. Like, I think that there is softening demand around the world, John. I'm not saying that demand's going to be a good thing. I worry about kind of whether or not our fundamentals are in place. If you look at U.S. biofuels policy, kind of the havoc that's happening. If you look at the potential for further trade strife blowing up, disrupting international markets even more. We talked about GLP-1 and kind of that demand space and what that looks like on our last show, or maybe we didn't talk. Maybe we talked about it after our last show, but. I think all of these things tell me that I think we kind of the solid demand fundamentals aren't as solid as they used to be.
Right. But there has been good stories too. Like corn exports have been fantastic in 25. That would be great to carry on in 26. So but again, like one of the things that concerns me, I think the variable is, even if we have increased demand, will that bring higher prices? And that's a little bit of the concern right now is even if from an American perspective, even if China does step up on those 25 million metric tons in the next crop year, does that actually bring higher prices? There, some that don't necessarily think so. So that's an interesting dynamic. So, okay, what market or cost assumption heading into 2026 is most likely to be wrong? Now, Tyler, you already said demand. Maybe you're going to give that same answer.
No, I was going to go with fertilizer markets and fertilizer prices. And again, I'm not maybe sure what my prediction is here, but you just look at all of the craziness that's going on and how geopolitics is really kind of looming large in the fertilizer space, Shaun. I don't know. Again, not clear to me if it's up or down, but I wonder.
But you think we're going to be wrong about it?
Well, what do you think? So, what do you do? Fertilizer price is going to be up, down, or the same in 2026?
I think they stay strong in the year. I think I don't know if we're going to be wrong about it, but one of the things that does concern me about these variability or the variables related to profit is, do we actually see a decline in the overall cost structure? Because fertilizer prices have been strong. And that's a component. That's an important variable component. But what we've seen is it's all costs across the board that has really put the pressure on farm profitability. I hope that reverses itself in 26. Again, I'm hoping. I don't know if I'm confident that's going to happen, but it's definitely something that would be a variable that would be pleasant for farmers. Kelvin?
I think my answer is kind of the negative to that, Shaun, and that is the assumption right now that the market has that the Fed in the U.S. is going to cut rates. Whoever Trump appoints as the new head of the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates, and it's just going to unleash economic growth without much larger consequences, including inflation, stagflation, that type of thing, and the possibility of inflation rearing its head again, which means higher costs everywhere again.
You're becoming that's a good background for that thought. But it is. Do you think the Fed's not going to cut in the first quarter?
I haven't analyzed it super closely, but I think they are going to cut. Yes, I think they will. But the extent to which they cut may not be as much as what the market is expecting right now. Overall, in all of 2026.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch. Some people believe that we could see upwards of now. Again, this time last year, people thought there'd be 6 cuts in the U.S. in 25. Okay, so there's a wide variety here. Right now, it seems that there's a lot of people that think there's going to be 2 cuts in the first quarter, and then we get to 3 and 4Q is where we're going to see potentially increases in interest rates again. So it's going to be really fascinating to watch. And of course, in the last week of December, we did see some strong economic news. A lot of people think it's going to be somewhat revised, but definitely right now, a stronger economic situation. We're definitely seeing in Canada. That is, and again, Canada should be cheering for strong economic activity in the U.S. because that Canada catches that cold, and it's good for the Canadian economy as well. But
exactly, yeah. I just worry that there's going to be incredible pressure on whoever is the next head at the Federal Reserve.
Of course, there will be,
and so it's going to have all kinds of unintended consequences if there's politicization of Fed decisions increasingly going down the road.
Agreed.
Yeah, but there's been politicization of the Fed, of the central bank. It's an issue in the UK as well. It's not just in the US.
Yeah, everywhere. Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah. What do we got here?
I have to do mine.
Oh, you haven't done yours yet?
No.
And oh, shoot! I'm sorry.
In that, yeah, you
Go
should.
ahead.
Yeah, I think I get a bonus point for that. But mine relates to that, in that I think one of the things that perhaps this is the royal we, is land prices, or more importantly, sort of land demand, land liquidity. I think sort of related to that point, and related, Shaun, to your point of the divergence of the haves and have-nots. I do wonder, as that sort of all comes to the fore, what that means for potentially land availability and or the amount of buyers and or the amount of land that changes hands and at what price. I am not saying that we're in for like some sort of bubble or whatever. I'm just saying I think that land prices may be under pressure and land liquidity as well. That's what I think.
Yeah. And so one of the things too,
how it's been.
One of the things too about land, no, exactly. And one of the things about land prices that's really fascinating is a lot of people on the way up have complained about outside investment getting involved in the land market. And if there are other things that can provide a better return than farmland from a prediction standpoint, that outside capital's, it's going to go somewhere else and into another asset class. And that will not be good. So it's not just farm profitability that is a factor in this, but it's also outside investment. And this is a huge issue in, say, like a state like Iowa, for example, right? Is where if Wall Street's not interested in farmland anymore, that's going to have an impact as well as kind of a double whammy from a demand, which is going to lower the bids when it comes to the land auctions and market. And Kelvin, you're nodding.
Yeah, and I think even from a individual farm perspective, if your traditional lender is tightening up what their picture is with you, you may have to turn to alternative lending sources or sources of equity, and that's kind of that double-edged sword where earlier we didn't want the outside investments competing for farmland, and now there may be farm situations where you kind of have to look to not your normal sources of equity to keep things flowing and sources of equity to get through tougher times. Yeah.
And that, not just an agriculture question, but that's a question from in a lot of industries is, do we continue to see the increase in private lending?
Yeah.
I
think we do in 26.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. I agree. Okay, we're going to take a break. We've got more of the 2026 Ag Outlook here on RealAg Radio. We're back right after.
As the clock winds down on another year, we are raising a toast, maybe a travel mug, a to-go cup, to the farmers, ranchers, truckers, agronomists, and crews who kept our communities fed and moving in 2025. Here's to the early mornings, the late nights, tough weather, and maybe most of all, the optimism that somehow shows up at the start of a new season. From all of us at RealAg Radio, I'm Kelvin Heppner. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring. All the best in 2026.
I'm Lyndsey Smith from RealAgriculture.com. Join me Monday nights for The Agronomists, a 1-hour live and interactive show broadcast across YouTube, Facebook, and X. Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, I host expert agronomists from all over the country to give you answers to some of the toughest agronomic questions. Join us live or catch the replay Tuesday morning. That's The Agronomists with me, Lyndsey Smith, Monday nights live at 8 p.m. Eastern.
If you're serious about agriculture, RealAg's got you covered.
For over 10 years, we've listened to and shared what producers have to say about everything from policy to agronomy from coast to coast.
Keep up with the latest in Canadian agriculture at RealAgriculture.com through daily newsletters and check out our YouTube channel.
Thanks for joining us in the RealAg community as we continue to cover and serve North American agriculture.
And welcome back to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. It is our 2026 A Look Ahead show. Shaun Haney, your host, with Kelvin Heppner, Lyndsey Smith of Real Agriculture, as well as Tyler McCann of CAPI. So, Tyler, let's start with you. What policy or regulatory issue will create the biggest on-farm headache in 2026 that isn't fully priced in yet?
So I'm going to stretch a little bit on this, but I'm going to say the risk of separation and referendums in Alberta and Quebec are going to complicate life for those farmers.
Okay, so dig a little deeper there.
Well, so I think it looks likely that in Quebec we will get one in 26 or in early 2027. It seems like Alberta's inching closer to it as well. I think farmers in both of those countries, hopefully not countries, both of those provinces will have to grapple with what are they going to do? What are the consequences of it? How much are they going to get involved? And I think that it is something that we have not had to think about for a long time. We've not had to wrap our heads around it. And, there are big issues. And I'll say that I think farmers in England went through Brexit with this sense as to what kind of would look like on the other side, and they are a great example of farmers getting kind of the shaft in that an outcome. I think that they had bought into Brexit being a good thing, and I'm not sure many of them today, looking back, feel the same way.
Now, but the financial pain they're facing, I'm not saying Brexit, I agree with you, Brexit hasn't totally worked out for agriculture in Britain, but some of the hardship is not all related to Brexit. It's also the overall market dynamic of agriculture and some of the things we've been talking about from an oversupply and lack of demand.
Right. But if you look at, they were promised, I think, a set of programs that would be the same as or better than what they were getting under the EU Common Agriculture Policy. That hasn't come to pass. I think that they've seen governments consistently pull back support. And I know in both Quebec and Alberta, farmers are probably in agriculture more important than they are kind of in the national context. But I worry that we may think there may be some sense that agriculture will be better under in an independent Alberta or an independent Quebec. And I think people need to be really careful. That's a big gamble, and it may end up making things a lot worse.
Kelvin, what's yours?
I'm going to get a little specific here, but I'm going to say U.S. voluntary product of USA labeling rule. Voluntary cool takes effect today, and we have yet to see how this is going to disrupt the livestock integrated complementary supply chains in the beef and pork sectors.
I like how I converted you to complimentary. That's one of my greatest successes of 2025.
Yes.
There was no sarcasm involved in saying it.
There wasn't.
No.
Okay.
So
Zero.
I heard takes cheap shots, Lyndsey. Just like everybody thinks he's like friendly Manitoba.
Well, yeah, he is. But anyway, complementary supply chains. That's a good one, Kelvin. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Definitely. That is a good one. We'll see where that goes.
What's yours, Lyndsey?
So I'm actually surprised that nobody took mine, but the Canada's tariff relationship with China. So I think that we've worked, yes, some of it in, but I don't know that that depending on what happens, how long things go on, how potentially worse it gets, or those sorts of things. I think that realistically, and again, yes, the focus is a lot on canola, but other sectors as well. But I actually think like going forward, and the longer this goes on, the much more detrimental it becomes. And I don't know if, like, say, the pulse markets, et cetera, have really worked that in yet. Same thing with canola. So that's, I mean, it's obviously on the radar. I just don't know if it's really been fully worked in.
Mine was a little bit more U.S. focused. It is if we see a build on top of the already announced $12 billion bridge package, if we see more money, and the impact that potentially has on input costs as a real factor that I don't think we got our heads totally wrapped around here yet, as we talked about the costs earlier as one of our biggest concerns from a farm profitability standpoint in 25 and in 26. And we'll have to see, because there's a lot of different what farm groups are saying, what some lawmakers are saying. There's a divergence there, and we're going to have a bit of a wait and see approach. It may just end with this $12 billion and wait for the budget reconciliation bill to kick in the fall related to the 25 crop year. But there could be some pressure when it comes to increasing that bridge package between the end of February and the fall. Okay. What trade relationship will matter more to Canadian farmers in 26 than most people are talking about right now? What do you have to say, Lyndsey?
Crumb. Why do you start with me on this one? This is like a Kelvin and Tyler. It's got Tyler and Kelvin all over it. Okay, so but the question is not just which one is the most important, but which one is maybe not being talked about enough.
Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. So, and I think this is a theme that has sort of carried through in our review of 2025 and looking forward to 2026. It does come back to China. I think we are talking about it a lot, so maybe that doesn't qualify. But I do think at some point, we do have to sort of rectify our past with what is possible in the future. And I think, there's more awareness or more talking about it than there has been, but I don't know if we're there yet. And that reconciling of what is possible, I don't know. And I don't know that we'll get to it in 2026. I hope we at least get closer to what, the next 5 to 10 years may look like. But it's one that, like, when I think about, where Canada has sent so much to China, and China is now either not buying and not buying globally, et cetera. I still think that there's a major shift in demand that is either happening now or will continue that we've really got to watch.
Okay. Kelvin.
I'm going to pick one that I know Shaun will disagree with here. So I'm going to say the relationship that will matter more to
Canadians. New leaf for you for January 1st? Like New Year, you just...
New Year, new me.
Yeah.
Okay.
The contrarian.
Antagonistic Heppner.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship that will matter more to Canadian farmers in 2026 than most people are talking about right now is the relationship with U.S. Congress members as President Trump's grip loosens on the GOP.
Overrated. I think you lost points on this one.
As he requires congressional approval to withdraw from CUSMA USMCA, the North American trade deal.
Yep.
Congress, the GOP is more divided than it's been since he won his second election. And so I think as the power of the White House diminishes over Congress, those relationships with people in the House and Senate who understand the importance of Canada, U.S., Mexico trade is going to be more important in 26 than what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's fair enough.
That's pretty good. I thought Kelvin was going to say Mexico. So there you go.
It was on my list if somebody else.
I would have agreed with that, though. There's
a backup.
Yeah, exactly. So
also,
I like
Pakistan. Pakistan. I'm surprised you didn't say Pakistan, Lyndsey, because of the reopened market there in Pakistan. Is the world's 5th largest population country population. So
and we can send canola again. Yeah,
send canola there.
Okay,
Tyler, what's yours?
We took.
So I'm effectively with Kelvin. It's the United States. As much as we talk about the United States and the U.S. market, we cannot talk enough about the United States and the U.S. market. It is so absolutely critical to the success of Canadian agriculture and food. We are in store for a pretty bumpy year in 2026, and I think that we need to be talking more about it than we are.
Yeah, I was going to say Mexico. I was also thinking maybe Asia, but at the same time, I think the U.S. is the right answer because
probably.
It's where rubber hits the road from an economic standpoint.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a big challenge for Carney. It probably is the greatest Canadian challenge of the year. Would you if you look at what's in front of the government, wouldn't you say that?
Yeah, it's the lens almost every decision they're making, staffing wise, policy wise, political priority wise, it's almost all through a lens of what does this do with the U.S. relationship? How does this?
So I've been around Ottawa and kind of politics for 20 years. It's the biggest issue in the 20 years that I've been involved. I don't think anything comes as close to kind of the need to manage this relationship.
In my sort of like thinking, like a lot of people will ask, hey, what do you think is going to happen? My answer, or my standard answer, and I think this is what I believe the most, is it's going to be very rocky. This is going to be a test of Canada's ability to not overreact to being offended, and it's that's a big challenge for Carney because he's going to face political pressure at home, but he has to have his eye on the prize from what is good for the Canadian economy, which may not align with what people want politically in Canada, and he's going to manage all that while still having a minority government. This is a big task. This is a big task.
He'll have a majority government. Yeah,
it may not be a majority.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
The question then, Tyler might have an opinion on this. Does the environmental corner of the Liberal Party gain more power if he has a majority, and does some of of Carney's objectives become more difficult?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, I think again he'll get a majority with more conservative floor crossers, and again I think that the U.S. focus is just so overarching in everything that there's no that is overpowering any environmental push inside the government. I think that those days are done.
Okay, we got to take a break. These have been some really good answers, you guys. Really thinking ahead here to what's going on in 2026. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
Hokey, snap, and look out! there it goes. 2025 is almost behind us. Peter Johnson at Wheat Pete, host of Wheat Pete's Word and a regular on Agronomy Monday here on Real Agriculture, saying, where does the time go? Oh my gosh. I hope in this holiday season you have had a chance to rest and recharge and reconnect, because those personal connections, the family ties, the friends are so critically important, because you need to be ready for 2026. We are going to come guns blazing with information. Just get ready, because you have to run to keep up. Happy New Year's, everyone. See you in 2026.
And we're back here on RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147. It is our look ahead in 2026. And we got the RealAg Issues Panel here today. Tyler McCann, Kelvin Heppner, Lyndsey Smith. Next question. Lyndsey, we'll let you go first. You love going first. What technology or practice will move from early adoption to mainstream in 2026?
Okay, so I'm going to pull a Tyler and sort of modify the question a little, because I'm pretty sure I know what Tyler and Kelvin are going to say. And also, technically, this is a very ancient practice. However, one of the things I'm super excited about, and I'm loving watching happening here in my own backyard, is not just grazing, but extended grazing and grazing, cover crops, crop aftermath, etc. And it's sort of funny, because you would think you would see an increase in that when like cattle prices are low and margins are tight. But I'm really proud of, and even Wheat Pete will back me up on this, there's so much more discussion here in Ontario about adding in like an annual forage or a fall forage and grazing it off and like these sorts of things for the win of the grazer, whether it's sheep or cattle, and for the win of the crop producer who wants to modify some soil health characteristics. We're actually seeing like some real momentum on this, and it's ancient, but it's sort of a new way of doing things where, you know, crop producers want to have some animal impact on the land, but livestock producers need some grazing space, and it's a win-win. And so we're seeing so much more of it, and I think we're going to see even more of it in 2026, and that makes me happy.
Nice.
So there you go.
That's a good one.
Nothing to do with apps.
You Luddite. Tyler,
all right,
what's
now they
yours?
can talk about apps.
Yeah, so I'm going to go, I'm not sure that, I mean, just apps, but I think artificial intelligence and kind of its impact on production practices and farm management is changing. And I think it may already be changing. We just don't kind of know and appreciate what's there, but I think it will be very in people's face by the end of 2026 that this isn't everything that we're doing.
We're a little slow on the adoption front here when it comes to AI. Kelvin, what's yours?
I think I'd go along the same path as Tyler and say increase user-friendly experience when it comes to using AI around farm management. Excel spreadsheets will get quickly translated into apps or platforms of some kind through AI, and doing your business analysis and stress tests and all those types of things through some sort of template made in AI. I think that type of things, I'm not saying that this will become mainstream, but I think we're going to see some adoption by farms at the leading edge. And I'm not sure that there's any practices in agriculture that go from early adoption to mainstream in 1 year. But I think we'll see, we saw, of course, ChatGPT, Gemini adoption increase just enormously in 2025. And I think we'll see some of that move into farm management, like Tyler said, production decisions, instead of using the old Excel spreadsheets, maybe integrated into Excel spreadsheets or with spreadsheets as the backbone for it, but increased user experience, I think, or user friendliness.
Okay, those are all good. I actually had two here. One was, I think we're going to see increased practice of financial tools, like, you know, an increased heightened level of budgeting, and because I think the conditions on the cropping sector really warrant it. And maybe sensitivity analysis, and I think we're going to see more of that. I know there's a lot of interest in it. I've had a lot of conferences and groups reach out. Hey, you know what? Farm financial literacy speeches, like, and talk about farm management, like, so that there's a demand for it. I think there's something there. And the other one is, I think and this is more of a U.S. one, but I think we're going to definitely see an increase, especially in things like the dairy sector and the fruit and veg sector, where applicable, increased use of technology where labor is not required. Whether that's in the milking, the installing robots in the dairy sector, and that all has to do with some of the labor shortages that the whole industry faces, but also tied, of course, to where the administration goes from the deportation standpoint and the use of illegal migrants in farm labor. I think there's going to be a big push in some of those sectors like dairy and fruit and veg for increased use of robots.
Trucking as well, North America wide.
Yeah, that's another good one. Yeah, trucking's a good one. Okay. Where will farmers pull back first in 26? We're going to have some actual data on this one coming up here in January. Where do we see some of the biggest cost cutting? Labor, technology, land, equipment? Where do we think? Kelvin, you go first.
Equipment, it's already happening and has been happening for several years.
Okay. Lyndsey.
I'm going to say, so I immediately sort of thought like inputs, and input wise, I'm going to say it's going to be a year for the tried and true, not a lot of like, bug in a jug, trying out some new things. It's going to be sticking with, your N rates and, penciling in a fungicide, but maybe you don't pull the trigger. But yeah, we're not going to see nearly as many dollars spent on the maybe it works. It'll be on the yes, it works.
Tyler, what's yours?
So I'm not sure if this is where they go first, but if we get to the point where people are pulling back on land, Shaun, I think that sector's got issues, right? And I think that is a chance that we get there in 2026. And, I don't know. I don't think that a land bubble bursts, but we start to see that start to change. We talked about that a bit earlier on the show, but yeah, I think it will tell us a lot if we start to see kind of land values flat, kind of pressure on rental rates. It's not going to be good.
One of the things that we saw in our market research is of all the different categories of places where people can cut costs, higher probability to cut those costs in the 26 year versus 25. And one of the biggest increases, now it still was one of the lower probability ones, but one of the ones that took the biggest jump is cutting back on labor. And so we could see a lot of farmers in some areas, depending on what your farm structure is, like, I'm going to try to do more of this work myself. Maybe I'm going to, get rid of the hired help, or maybe all of it or a little bit of it. And I'm going to work more hours, which that puts pressure in other areas too. So that's something to definitely watch out for. Where do you think farmers are most likely to invest?
Tell me if it's going to rain. Then I'll let you know.
But so I think that there's something around kind of what I'm going to call the production tool space, right? Which I think that there is all of these kind of digital, go back to kind of that AI piece where we are going to get more tools that will give us more information about, is it going to rain and what kind of decisions I should make and where should I be putting my fertilizer, what fertilizer should I use, how much risk I should take. I think that there will be more investment in that space as people get more comfortable with the tools.
Kelvin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think it'll be on the technology side as things become, as the return on investment is, if it's clear they're investing in ways of being more precise or being more resilient, reducing risk in terms of outcomes.
From an investment standpoint, one that comes to mind is breeding stock in the livestock sector when it comes to beef. Do we see an opportunity for people to start to rebuild that cow herd, so to speak? What does that kind of look like? I think that's definitely an opportunity, especially with some of the money that's been made. But some of that money that's been made in these last couple of years is trying to deal with some of the losses that were over the past lot of years, right? So everybody's in a kind of a different situation there. But I think that's one to really. I've talked to a number of different ranchers that they believe this supply, this fundamental issue around supply and the demand that we have been seeing. There's an opportunity here to invest because this is not just a short little cycle, that a blip, so to speak. Hey, here's a good one. What management skill will separate top quartile farms from everyone else in 2026? Tyler, what do you think?
Yeah, I think you touched on it earlier. I think it's that kind of that risk and that sensitivity analysis and understanding where you're exposed and what you can do about it will make a big difference.
Yeah, so that to me, that's knowing your cost of production and your real cost of production. not the cost of production you think, but the one that you've actually calculated, and the one that actually includes the true cost of actually producing whatever good or bushel or ton it is. And I see this, even when times are good, whatever the case may be, fully, and certainly on the sheep production side, fully understanding your cost of production is an incredibly, incredibly important tool. And those that do know it make better decisions.
But so I think it's a step further than that, right? Of saying, what's my cost, but where can I influence it? Yeah. And on the revenue side, right, where am I exposed? Where am I not? What are the different tools that I've got? How do I kind of use all of those tools in a more sophisticated way? I think that kind of Shaun earlier talked about the interest in farm literacy. You talked about kind of farmers needing to know that cost of production. I mean, like that. I think it says a lot about the sector that stuff's not just table stakes today, right? Like we really do have a long way to go. We have a long way to go on those things.
But again, when I give that speech, I always point out this is not just a farmer thing. Like let's not be harsh on the sector. This is an entrepreneur issue.
Yes,
because this is a major factor across entrepreneurship. Period. Sorry, Lyndsey, go ahead.
Yes, well, because of two things. One, entrepreneurs, farmers, business owners don't tend to value their time like they should. So that automatically can skew the numbers, right? Because if you're not valuing labor or time, we tend to only put a dollar value on it if we're hiring someone. Well, that's not how that works. We're kind of terrible at opportunity costs, right? Of actually putting those in there. So like, yes, Tyler, you're right. Like a cost of production should be table stakes. There's reasons that it's not. And to Shaun's point, it's not the only sector that does this. And there's a difference between like your cost of production and truly costing out like your actual analysis of all your enterprises. There are differences in them. So yes, but it all comes back, I guess, to that financial literacy.
One of the big differences that we don't often talk enough about, though, Shaun, between those entrepreneurs that you talked about and the farmers that are doing the work that Lyndsey just talked about, is that those farmers have extra support and tools and public backstop that the average entrepreneur doesn't. And I think that we do need to be a lot more transparent and honest and open about the fact that, again, we've got $3 billion in income support and subsidies spent on those ag entrepreneurs every year, that your average entrepreneur trying to run a restaurant or a store or kind of a plumbing business doesn't get that same backstop and protection that the farmers do.
Kelvin, you haven't gone yet, have you?
No, I haven't. I think my answer is largely related, or kind of encompasses this. I'd say having a good business plan that provides confidence to lenders to maintain access to financing will separate top quartile firms from everyone else.
I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to the first 2 quarters. I've got a handful of speeches with U.S. state ag banker associations, and I'm looking forward to getting that read on that relationship between the banker and the farmer. I'm really looking forward to it. Mine was going to be is getting rid of the distraction of farm succession. So the separation between farms that have their succession plan behind them and done, so they're focused on, eye on the prize, versus ones that are trying to navigate this, the volatile and chaos and the increased risk of farming and ranching here in 2026, and trying to also manage that succession piece with a lot of unanswered questions. I think there's a separation there in my mind. At least, that's kind of what I think. Okay, we're gonna take a break. We've got more of the RealAg Issues panel looking ahead to 2026. We'll be back right after this.
Hey everyone, Amber Bell here, field editor and host of Ruminating with RealAg. As we get ready to close the book on this year, I just wanted to jump in with a quick New Year's wish. There's something about this week between Christmas and New Year's where time feels a little wobbly. You're not sure what day it is, you're living on leftovers, and the to-do list has given up on you entirely. And honestly, I kind of love it. It's a rare pause before the next season ramps up, and I hope you get to enjoy at least a slice of that pause too. Maybe that's to catch up with friends, maybe it's tackling a project you've been putting off, or maybe it's just ignoring your alarm clock for once. Whatever your reset looks like, I hope it sets you up right for the year ahead. Thank you for spending time with us this past year. Whether you tune in regularly or just happen to catch a show between chores, sharing conversations with you all is one of the best parts of what I do. So here's to a new year filled with good ideas, kind people, and the sort of weather that doesn't test your patience too often. Happy New Year, everyone. See you on the other side.
Now, the big question we've left to the last, and we're going to ask the panel here, what will be the biggest ag story of 2026? Crystal ball out, and here they go. Up first, it is Kelvin.
Man, if I go first, I get to pick the easy one every time, and I'm going to say the CUSMA USMCA North American trade deal talks and the relationship between Canada and the US going forward. Sorry, take that one off.
Do we even get him a point, gang?
Well, he had to go.
So I don't think he's right. I think he took the easy, lazy way out. I think that there's a better answers there.
I guess
he's not wrong, though.
No, he's not. Although I guess the follow-up question would be, Kelvin, where does supply management end up in that? Because that makes it spicy.
I don't know.
Is it even a thing?
Kelvin never wants to talk about it. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. That's Kelvin's view on these things.
He talks about it all the time.
We talk about it all the time. Anyway, go ahead, Kelvin.
We can talk about it here. Again, this is a little bit fainter in the crystal ball, but my expectation is that Canada will compromise on the TRQ changes that the U.S. says were promised in the original USMCA. I'm not sure that we see much more than that, though, in terms of how and contrary to what all the anti-supply management people in Canada want, the U.S. isn't actually asking for supply management to be dismantled. They're asking for some tweaks around the TRQs. I know our Canadian dairy industry will say that it isn't just tweaks, but I think that is the most likely scenario. Dairy people won't be happy with it. There will be some noise there.
I'm right there with you.
If we're trying to make projections here, I think that's the most likely.
And I think if people want to hear, a thoughtful discussion on supply management and the future of it, they should listen to the Ag Policy Connection podcast that we put out through the RealAg channels, where we had Greg Meredith, a longtime senior civil servant, talk about farmers needing to take the future of supply management into their own hands and think about what does a potential transition look like. So that's a more thoughtful conversation on supply management than you get other places.
I do also wonder whether we are anywhere closer to resolving CUSMA differences between Canada and the U.S. a year from now than we are today. Like, to me, that's another.
That's a good question. And Carney's comments last week about how it could be a long time to get a deal, that felt like he was kind of cushioning in that direction. Like, don't get your hopes up, everybody. That was an interesting comment.
We may have the same lines drawn in the same positions on both sides a year from now. Other than there will be job losses in some sectors that will have happened since then.
For sure.
Lyndsey, what's yours?
Well, continuing on the theme of super happy fun time, I'm going with livestock disease outbreaks. So HPAI, this is our fifth winter of this HPAI outbreak. We had I think it was a Michigan cow was just last week or the week before was just confirmed to have contracted HPAI. We've got still risks within the hog sector, these sorts of things. So I do think that unfortunately there's a screwworm issue down in the States. Like the impact of some of these is just so gargantuan. And sometimes I don't think we give it enough credit. And I feel like because of that, we maybe don't have the pieces in place that we maybe need on a large scale. Like I'm not 100% confident this whole screwer thing is going to go better before it gets worse. Do you know what I mean? So like this is a pretty terrifying thing. So I would say the livestock disease / pest outbreak side of things could be really bad in 2026.
Okay.
Sorry. It's very Canadian of me. I'm just going to apologize. Yeah.
Yeah. Tyler, what's yours?
Farm financial health. I think we have lived through 20 really good years, and seems like those good years are over. And I think certainly in kind of in the farm policy politics space, we haven't had to deal with making farm policy in bad times, really. Like we haven't faced that same pressure, and we've got big things that are coming on the horizon. And I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on a lot of ministers and politicians to kind of support farmers as they deal with tough times. I'm not sure that's going to be kind of the best long-term solution for the sector. I think we're seeing that in the United States, where it's not clear to me these bailouts that farmers are getting actually fix anything.
Well, not bailouts. So not a bailout. I think that's not a bailout.
What is it?
Difference.
What's that?
What's the difference?
What's the difference?
Well, a bailout is making people whole. I don't
No.
it's not a bailing bucket. I think that is that is not being conscious of some of the horrific financial situation that is in some parts in some crops.
The U.S. has
a
suite of programs that farmers benefit from all of the time. This is going above and beyond that, Sean. This is a political bailout if there ever was one.
One of the reasons is because there's no farm bill.
You're not calling that, I think, is
no. One of the reasons is because there's no farm bill. I'm not agreeing with the package. I understand why there is a political thrust to do it. Like, I think there's more nuance here than you're making this a very simple issue, and it is, I think, way more complicated than that.
Yeah, but it is a direct payment to farmers for. Yeah, like it is.
Yeah, it is.
I recognize it's not maybe bringing people up to like even break even or profitability per acre.
Not even close.
I get that, but it is a bailout. It's still a subsidy. It's still,
the president himself is tying it to tariffs and the impacts of tariffs on farmers, right? Like
again.
Okay, we don't have time. So I think, does anybody else have to go, or am I left?
No, you're left. Give her.
So mine is not the biggest ag story, but I wanted to mention this, and we didn't fit it in anywhere else in the show. But I think one of my predictions for this year is this time next year, we are going to have a different Minister of Agriculture and a different Secretary of Agriculture in the United States. We'll have two new people. Don't know who they are. I don't know when this is going to happen, but that will not surprise me that we see a cabinet shuffle from the ag portfolio for Mr. McDonald, and I think we're going to have a new Secretary of Agriculture at USDA.
And both will not have a higher ranking than the current person.
Interesting.
Right. Interesting. Okay. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
We'll see how right we were.
I've marked it all down.
We've got to look for a lot of silver linings in other parts of our life, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
There is opportunity. I think it's easy to focus on the negative, but I also think there's opportunity too. And I remember during the pandemic, Jim Minterd from Purdue, he said, listen, Sean, you're being far too negative. This is opportunity. This is where the farms that have strong balance sheets, good free cash flow, this is when they pounce. There's opportunity in all the noise and the fog of all this. And I think you got to keep that in mind, because it is easy to get negative, but that's why having a strategy is one of those separators, as we discussed. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com, or call or text the RealAg feedback line. That number is 855-776-6147. Happy New Year to everybody in the Real Agriculture audience. We're looking forward to everything that 2026 brings, and we have it all covered here on this show and realagriculture.com. And we'll talk to you again next week. Cheers, everybody.